Hey y'all. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. You guys, we are back second day in a row in this new year. And tonight we are back to talk the cult of the Real Housewife, all about Mary Cosby and all of the things, the 3-part documentary that aired on TLC. But how are y'all doing? Tyra, how are you today, lovely? And are you ready to get into all things the cult?
I am great, and yeah, we need to talk about these folks and how I was searching hard to feel sorry for somebody.
Yeah, we do. There's a lot to talk about. Now, you guys know I've already done my uploads. You have most of my thoughts, but we do need to have a talk about it because I think it's important. I think there were important things to discuss, but we're going to get right into it as we always do. Tyra, I want to know because I know you don't watch this Real Housewives franchise at all. So, on the outside, I guess looking in with not really a history of any of the things that were talked about or happened, what were your overall thoughts of this documentary?
Girl, this was shallow as hell. I said, what popsicle sticks and hot glue gun did y'all staple together to make this? It just something felt really void. Um, there was a lot of potential here. I felt like a lot of truths were told and there was some honesty provided. Even in the scarcity as far as who had something to say on the matter, it still felt like there was somewhere to go, but I feel like in certain sectors we dropped the ball when it was, giving Effie, I can go further. And we just didn't go further. I was like, go elaborate further. It's like you won't believe what them over there did to me on that day. Who? On what day? And why? Like, um, this was a choice to find out that Mary has been married for quite some time on the television show. I don't watch any of this. I don't know. But Mary has been married for a long time. So I was really interested to know at this point in, I guess, her career, why did people decide to gather around and make a doc and present it in this way? It wasn't bad, but it could have been a whole lot better. And I think if it was, and we did a little bit more homework and we had more depth, it would have made for a more sound documentary other than just kind of topical. I don't like to sit and watch and feel like somebody isn't really sharing their point of view, and it's just kind of giving you mad.
Yeah, word on the street is one of the housewives. This is the crew that she uses to do her hit pieces. And unfortunately, while I do think it was good to shed light on like the abuses and the things that happen in the Black church, and also kind of, reframing our idea about what a cult is. However, it really felt so one-sided. And I think for any documentary to have credibility, it's going to be one-sided. You have to come very receipt heavy with all of your accusations. There's got to be a paper trail. We got to have video. We got to have recordings. We got to have all of that. And I feel like for me, that's where it was lacking the most. This was a very targeted piece on a Black housewife in a very white franchise. And so it does, kind of beg the question of why. Like, why did y'all choose Mary? Of all of the corrupt people who do all of the corrupt things, why did you do this? Now, they've done other cute little documentaries, right? But a 3-hour long docuseries with 3 different episodes where basically it feels like we're just listening to people who had a grudge, who've had a
Mm-hmm.
grudge since childhood or were jealous since childhood. For me,
Yeah.
that is not what a good documentary makes. But I will say it's entertaining. Anytime we get a conversation around a girl who married their grandfather, I
Yeah.
think I think we're gonna have I think, it's a conversation piece. And like I said, I was sat for all 3 just to see what else they were gonna come out of their bag with her.
Yeah, it was just all very like, yeah, those are circumstantial evidence. I like plead fifth. Like, if y'all don't give us something else.
Please give us something. Give us something. So who brought this to us? I wanted to go over there because who did this? This was Julian Hobbs directing and Denise Davis producing this series. And again, word on the street is these are people who have done other very targeted social media campaigns and other pieces against different housewives at the behest of a certain housewife. I'm not putting no names in it. Also, there's a lot of controversy around this documentary because of the crediting of content creators. They put a lot
Mm-hmm.
of creators in this doc, use their clips, use their intellectual property in this piece, their video, their sound bites, and did not get permission. So, Tyra, what do you think of that? I know Kempire was one of them, several other
Mm-hmm.
white creators that were put in the doc, and no reach out, no contact, like, hey, we're going to can we use you? Can we use your likeness? None of that was done.
It just it invalidates the whole doc as a whole. I didn't know that they didn't get their permission. Like that seems like the bare minimum in a check off. Like, okay, we need to make sure we get this, that. It was bad enough to mostly have, if it wasn't family or someone kind of close to it, it just felt like content creators and people who maybe give their commentary on Mary or just the housewives in general over the years. And not to say that they don't deserve a spotlight, but it says a whole lot when they're here versus who we're used to seeing that sheds light, like, oh, okay, now we're really cooking because this person wouldn't be here if there wasn't some truth and some validity to it. Like, where your ex-husband? You know what? People like that. But that's messed up. It snatches any light that this may have had, and it's unfortunate because I'm not saying that everything in here maybe, wasn't true or there were just so many inconsistencies because it was kind of just trying to shine a negative light on Mary or lack thereof. But when you do that, it's like, what was the rush? Why did we go this route? What was the intention behind presenting this period? I don't know.
Exactly. It makes it suspect. And again, like you said, loses all credibility. Now, the two YouTubers, I think someone named Adam and then Sherelle from like
Mm-hmm.
Sherelle's World, they were actually featured with interview and talking head segments throughout the documentary. So I know that their permission was obtained, but several other content creators were just kind of like, yeah, we're going to use it and we're going to profit off of it. And you get no say. And we know that's a huge no no. Now, whether it's going to get litigious and these creators decide that they want to come together and file suit, people are claiming fair use. And with fair use, it's got to be a transformative
Yeah.
work. And y'all literally just put their
Mm-hmm.
clips up there without adding or taking away anything to it. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But I don't like it. TLC got a coin. Y'all could have paid them people. Excuse me. Now let's get into who is Mary Cosby. Again, we're introduced to her, I believe, season 1 of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And she comes in as a force, honey. She's got all the personality. She's got all the comebacks. She's got all the quips. And she's a pastor, you know what I mean, who married her grandfather. And it's like, oh, who is Mary? That's scandalous, but we love her. She's good for TV, right? So she makes a very strong entrance. She's cussing the girls out in her way, not officially. Her tagline was, "You come for me, I'm sending Jesus after you," Tyra. That's what the lady said. But again, we get to know her. Again, we find out the situation with the grandfather. And although it was off putting, when she introduces it, this is what my grandmother wanted. My grandmother wanted him to marry one of her girls because she knew one of the girls would take care of him. And she left me everything else, the businesses, the church, the land, the houses, all of that, with this condition that I marry her husband. Right. And so everyone's like, well, it's odd. But then again, it's also Utah. You know what I mean? So again, she was kind of the spark within. She had brought some of the girls to church, honey, and was preaching the people down, the congregation. Mary, we love you. Mary's my best friend. Like, we got all of that in the season that she was. Then when kind of people started questioning things, because we're seeing her whole room converted into a closet and her saying, I'm gonna have to get an apartment just for my clothes. Then we start hearing murmurings, whisperings from congregants, from past congregants that are like, how does she have all this money? Like, we had no idea that she was draped in Chanel and Louboutin and all of those things. And so that's it. Again, definitely a fan favorite. Even now, after watching the doc and hearing about the abuses and the taking of the people's money and all that, she still has a very healthy fan base that are like, I don't give a damn what Mary did. Them people were fools and gave the money. I still rocking with Mary because Mary's rocking with me. Also, she came back a season ago because she left the show for a moment. comes back. Her son was strung out, on the dope. And the way that she handled him, I think, gave people a lot of hope. She was so kind and so caring and walked him through his addiction and all of that. And, became everybody's fave again. So now this after that, it seems a little suspect, the timing. But Tyra, what do you think about the person that you kind of, I guess, met in the doc? Because you didn't watch the show. So
I did not. Mary is Looney Tunes. I thought she was a character. I, I was, because I thought maybe she was just the pastor's wife, and then watching, like, oh no, you're not just a first lady. You're preaching and carrying on like you're a pastor. I was like, who's following this woman? Nothing about Mary makes me want to follow her. I don't know. Mary, there's something like unnatural and unbelievable about Mary, even in the ways that she's charismatic and kind of a people person. Like there's something magnetic about her, but it's nothing that would make me want to attach myself to her or send her a check. I was just flabbergasted. I was like, wow. And it's like, well, it is Utah. Be that as it may, we're used to certain people over there in Utah. Like, oh, that's the people over there in Utah. Not Mary and Pastor Grandpa, Pop, Dad, stepfather. But it was all gross. I don't know her in the show, but a lot of the housewives, especially if it's not like OG, is putting on airs and acting like you can afford, or maybe you can. It's a lot of, flaunting your wealth. And as we see between last year and even now, a lot of these housewives are having the rug pulled from underneath them because you're living beyond your means, trying to, live like the Johnsons. And now we got to go do time. Because we didn't pay that. We wrote hot checks and we stealing out of stores and taking and stealing furniture out of Airbnbs. I don't know. I don't watch this stuff. I hear stuff in the streets. But I want to know, and I guess I would have to watch the show for that, how Mary was treated. Like, was there a constant conversation outside of, I can understand the view from the pulpit and the deacons and whatnot seeing Mary like, oh, I didn't know Mary was living like this. Or was there a constant conversation on the show about how is she making her money?
well, that's kind of the thing. A lot of viewers, when watching her, and she had, I think, the highest net wealth of any of the housewives in that
Hmm.
franchise that season. And it was very much, how does this black lady have all this money? That's what it gave to me. How does she have all this money? Why does she have all this money? Like, if you listen to a lot of the content creators that were coming out at the time, it was like, how does Mary have all this money? She's just a pastor. Pastors don't have Chanel. Pastors don't have this. And so there was always this question around, how do you have your money? When in other franchises, and I've watched it, and I've watched most like 90% of the franchises, there's never been
Hmm.
a question of, oh, how did
Yeah,
you get all that money? How you got all that money, little girl? Like, how do you have it?
I
So
thought
yeah,
so.
that was a hot topic discussion at the time.
I thought so, and I don't like that. I think because, she's a pastor and what it kind of represents, you expect like a level of humility. And it's like, well, no, we're not into those things. We're not flaunting. Like, and Mary's the total opposite. But there shouldn't be a question. Even when I say like things are blown out of proportion and you may have, your husband going down there to do that bedtime because you stole that couch trying to flaunt on a Chanel bed. But when it's on, the shoes on the other foot and we have these things kind of blow up, it's low key kind of hush hush in the community, and we go do our time and we get back out and we act like nothing never happened. I have seen so much about these housewives in the past year that it's just really ridiculous, and people just kind of bask in their downfall. Like, I knew your black ass ain't had no money. Like, I don't always just assume that they don't have any money or they couldn't have the means to get it. With Mary, it's, you probably had some, of course, due to the lineage, but how are you using it? How are you pouring it back into the church, or are you pouring it back into just yourself?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and she said it before, how am I getting how am I using the congregation to subsidize my whole life? You've seen how I live and you see how many congregants I have. Because when we looked at the church, it was 25, 30 people in there.
Whatever
Wasn't
now.
a whole lot of people. And I think they're kind of glazing over the fact that in addition to the church, she did inherit businesses. And again, I think to be a good documentarian, we need to follow the money. And to be a good
Hmm.
investigative journalist, who they say they had and was featured on the
Yeah.
documentary, I think you have to do more than that, is that their only source of income. Certain things are public
Yeah.
records that you can find out. And I think those things, especially the businesses, if they're
Yeah.
registered businesses in the city of Salt Lake, you can access a lot of their information. And I just feel like due diligence wasn't done. There were just, wild kind of accusations put out there. And some of them may be true. I don't
Yeah.
want anybody to feel anything about this. I don't think Mary is innocent. Do I? I think she mistreated them people, and I think she took them their money and called them poor while she did. I think that. But do I think it's to the level that I've seen with others? That I'm not sure. DeMarcus, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Which movie is better? I Think I Love My Wife or Why Did I Get Married? For me, I am not a Chris Rock fan. Never have been, never will be. So for that reason, and for, I'm going to this mountain to save my marriage, I'm going over there with Why Did I Get Married? Tyra.
We actually just watched this not too long ago on the Discord. I'm gonna go with I Think I Love My Wife. I find myself going back to that one more than I would Why Did I Get Married quite often, actually.
No, I don't like the Chris Rock of it all. But I think I
I
watched
just
it once,
think
so I give it a fair try.
I think two things can exist at the same time. Mary can come from money and have money and still seek out money from other people, and she can also be a woman of God and be a terrible person.
that part that part. And so now we're going to get back into the origins, because that's kind of how they do the documentary. We hear a little bit about Mary, and then we find out the origins of Faith Temple Pentecostal Church and Mama. And we find out that Mama is from my hometown, Indianapolis, Indiana. And she started in ministry there, going to camp meetings, and she felt so called by the Lord to go to Salt Lake and to save the whites in Salt Lake, that she packed up her 4 kids and said, we are going to walk to Salt Lake City, Utah. It was giving very Joseph Smith. I'm just going to sit it right there. But they were going to walk. But and so they hitchhiked, they walked, they took buses, they did everything until they land in Salt Lake. She takes work as a housekeeper, and she starts having services out of the home that she gets when she's there. From those services in the living room, the ministry grows up because Mama is willing to take everyone in. She says that she feels more like a mother than a pastor or overseer, that she actually is. And the people came and said that they'd never been loved like this. This was something new that they'd never seen before. And so she amasses not only this huge following in this church and almost like this idol worship, right? People really like Mama, just, and at that point, she starts to have businesses that service Black people in Salt Lake, because there's a deficit, because we do have this community of Black people here that don't have services that they need or want, or they can't get from the other, which was genius, right? So
Yeah.
after a while, she's really created this whole empire, right? And so she's still got her connections to Indy. And so she'll go back every now and again for a tent revival, a camp meeting. And one time when she goes back, she brings back 40 people. And one of those people was Robert. Now, Robert was 22, 23 years old, 20 years her senior, right? She's in her 40s.
Mhm.
Okay. And he's sniffing after her. They say that she brutally rebuffs him, but the congregation says, no, Mama, you need this. She gets a revelation and says, listen, he's that one for me. He'll carry on the ministry when she goes. And that's just how it's going to be. And they get married. They don't have any children together. All of her children are either adopted or from her previous situation. And they embark on life together. Now, Tyra, we're going to talk about the origins, but I want to know from you, because what I've been hearing in the comments is that Mama wasn't innocent. Mama started this cult and Mary just carried it out. What are your thoughts on that? Because from what I got from the doc, from all the people, Mama was a kind-hearted lady. I don't know, but I mean that can make a cult leader as well.
Okay. Something about Big Mama Your Arm. Something about her gave, Jonestown. I don't know. Something about Mama gave Sip the Kool-Aid. Just the format of how this came into fruition. Like, I'm going to go out here where a church like this really doesn't exist. And we've seen, like, it's like a cult leader template. Like, you go and there's this untapped market of, you know what, hey, y'all don't get church like this down here. I can really tap into this and profit off of it, and also, spread the good word and all of this good stuff. And it's, I don't know, something about Mama and the relationship that she has with her actual daughter. Something is off. And so I was like, it was so much information to me left on the table, and even in the way of Mama, like, if we got a big mama, or that's mom, that's big mama, but the whole entire church calling you mama, I don't know that it's a little cult-ish. We didn't really dive too much into it because with this doc they wanted to paint Mama in such a positive light, to have such a strong, just because it's like, then Mary got there and it went like this, like, I think there are some more rocks to look under. The way we kind of went into how the actual husband passed, and it was just kind of unclear. And then we get this 20 something Robert. It's just something really unnatural to me. I don't know what all Mama did, but if we have, a Mama figure and we put Mary there next, and it's in the way that she's there with the husband and the grandpa, uncle, daddy, it just looks like, oh, Mama was so much better. But I think a lot of with Mary, it had to be learned behavior. The way that she said she was so close to this woman, and this was my mama because I didn't have a real relationship with my own. We were underneath her thumb in every single way, and I'm sure we're gonna get into her rebelling and whatnot. But we normally imitate what we've seen. I just don't see her being able to come in here and completely change the culture of this church or cult, if you will, all by her lonesome. I think them people had to be indoctrinated, like, since the beginning of, Faith Temple Pentecostal Church, and then it's just kind of evolving and repeating. We didn't get anything, so I can't say for sure, but from my eyes, Mama wasn't completely all clean and just giving a good word.
And I don't know. I'll definitely give my opinion in just a moment. But Demarcus, thank you so much again for the $5 super chat. Mary Cosby was giving me Bishop Patrice Woodbine from the Pink. Where the money reside? Where the money reside? Where the money reside? Mary's different. I don't know. For me, like I said, I don't feel like Mama was nefarious. I feel like she did have a faithful congregation. Well, I'll say intentionally nefarious because I know people's motivations can change, and
Mm-hmm.
ego
Yeah.
boost can change you, and it can change an entire culture. I will say that Mama laid the groundwork and the foundation for how faithful this community was to their leadership over here. And I think that Mary and the bishop, I think they monopolized on it. And I absolutely think they used it. When they talk, they're saying, well, once Mama died and they took over, it became very much, we need to have these extra offerings. We need 100,000 by Thursday. That didn't seem to be the culture. But I think the
Yeah.
idea that they were going to be faithful to the ministry was, and you serve, without, your regard to your own whatever. I will also say that I think there had to be a smattering of that, putting the pastor or leadership in the place of God, just
Yeah.
because of how quickly they were to make Mary a god in this, which is so crazy as hell to me. But
And
y'all
then,
know.
like, we had all of this. Oh, when they brought out, I've been here since the beginning. I was this close to Mama, and I thought that she was going to really dive into, because we saw these photos. We didn't really have anybody speak to the culture and how great it was when Mama was there. It was just about, and more so like a prophet way, and what she was able to do. Oh, she came here and made something out of nothing, and I came and I spread the good word and I started these businesses. But we didn't really go into depth about her, like, intentions within the church and the community, and why she was so great outside of her just being Mama and she made something out of nothing. Like, what made her so great?
Yeah, they don't. I mean, we don't get that. Again, they didn't dig deep. We don't get. I think because if you compare it to a lot of the other cult documentaries, because I love cult documentaries, this pales in comparison. Because
Mm-hmm.
we're going to get a idea of what they believe, what their principles are, how it came to be, and that was completely neglected. Again, this was all out to get married. Like I said, and I don't think she's innocent, but this was all about getting married and not really addressing the cult of it all, in my opinion. Jay Buggin, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Mama can put her kids in danger by walking state to state. In the name of Jesus. Yes, mama started that weird ish. Mama started the ish. And so we've got all that going on. And of course, like I said, they're married. And so now we're hearing from adult sons of mama who are saying Robert has a history of abuse, of abusing them, of corporal punishment, of making them sit over pins or something. I said, what kind of hellish stuff did he have these boys doing? But he would take the boys out with the other elders of the church, allegedly, and they would go out and basically torture them for all intents and purposes, all the boys in the family, all the boys in the church, because he wanted to make them men. Now, one of the boys says, I wasn't going to tell mama because she was so happy and we didn't want to interrupt her happiness. But one of the other brothers told and said, listen, he's got us doing do with these meetings that he's calling. And kind of my question there, and of course he says that mama said no more meetings and the meeting ceased. But from that point, she stays with him. So we don't know if the abuse continues. We really don't know the extent of the abuse because that's not a button they press. They didn't go further with that because what else did it? Because they look traumatized talking about it.
Yeah.
So what else happened? What else did Robert do? These are the questions that need answers. And I think in this 2026, this year of our Lord, if we're going to do a hard hitting piece, let's go there. We need to understand fully what happened because honestly, in my mind, if I'm gonna do an expose on anybody, it's gonna be Robert's old ass because what are you doing and what have you been doing in here for years? That's what I want to know, Tyra. But Robert's history of abuse and Big Mama staying with him.
Child, nobody's nicer or closer to the Lord than a man who needs a place to stay. I think Robert saw an opportunity and Mama saw a young man. She saw a young tender. She said, "Yep, you know what? Husband, you go to Glory. I'm gonna trade you in for a younger model." That's what it gave. Because the way he just popped up, and it's like he's there, and it's all Mama. Mama was just, Mama wasn't having it. She didn't see him like that. It was hands off. But he was so persistent, kept pressing, and then her husband passed. So it was like, come on down, Robert. The way that those grown adult men were still carrying a spirit of hurt and hatred in their old age says a whole lot. It says a whole lot beyond just this military abuse style training hardcore that he had them doing because this is what made me a man. And we see that a lot with the older generation and what they would consider what would make you a man or just the everyday ordinary discipline, light years from what we would do now. But I was like, it's something that you guys aren't saying. To carry that much fear and hatred to where it could break you like that in an interview, and it's like you can't even like fully complete your sentences. I was like, oh yeah, something happened. Something happened beyond this longer, and they're hurt. And it's unfortunate that these men have to carry that. Now, big raggedy mama, because mama was so happy. We couldn't break her spirit. We just wasn't gonna say nothing. And then it's like, yeah, what? Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna do something about that. We didn't do enough because why is he still here? If mama was mama would never. Because and I think the way that mama was moving, if anybody's gonna have on, rose tinted glasses, it's gonna be her children. Because in their eyes, mama can do no wrong. Mama's gonna protect us above all else. She would never stand for any of this. If she wasn't, he wouldn't be there. And with how he was just navigating the whole, she didn't know. She knew. Mama knew. But okay, well, I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again, but we're not really going to address it. I'm just going to make sure it stops, and he's still going to be here. Be here to do what? If there's somebody in your kid's life in general who has this level of, torture and abuse, and we're disguising it as discipline, who's to say what he tried to do or made them endure later because, oh, y'all went and told her, or whatever. Like, you don't keep this kind of human being around yourself, your congregation, your damn children, and he stayed there. Yeah, mama showed me everything I needed to know about her when she allowed this man to stay there. I didn't want to hear nothing else after it.
That's true. I don't respect, and I don't even respect it back then because they'll say, this is an older time, an older generation. Hell no. If this man is causing harm to your children, you put him away because then it becomes not just about your kids, which it should be first and foremost, but then you said this is who you want to pass your ministry and your flock to. Do you even care about them? This is the type of man who would abuse them that you would want to put over there. Robert wasn't slinging that good a ding-a-ling back in the day to make that happen, in my opinion. And so, like Mama, like daughter. And somebody asked about Mary's father, and Rosalind Cazares, who's Mary's mother. They said that she wasn't really like a mom to the
Yeah.
girls, to her children. Like she was kind of outliving her own life. And so I think that father walked away. I don't think they've been in contact or whatever. And you know that at this point, Mary and her mom are not together anyways. But anyway, so Big Mama apparently all of a sudden unexpectedly dies. Well, before she's died, Mary has gotten married to another man, okay, Dana, this man, her first husband, and has been out here a city girl. They said that Mary was ripping running these streets, honey, with all kind of men. The bigger the bag you had, that's what dictated if Mary was going to be in your life. She married this man, but she was living all kind of foul, and so Big Mama disfellowshipped her. In other words, sat her down, right? She couldn't serve in ministry. She couldn't do anything. I'm sure she could still attend services, but she couldn't be in the pulpit. She couldn't do none of that, right? She's completely sat down. So Mama dies unexpectedly, which we find out later they suspected foul play, literally have her body exhumed, only to find out that she did in fact die of heart disease because Robert had spirited her away and took her out of Salt Lake. It was very shady all about Mama's passing. They don't talk about that in the doc. I had to dig that out somewhere else, but yes, so it was very shady. And so Robert, after he sat with it a couple days, says, "Yeah, you know what? I feel like the Lord's telling me I need to marry Mary. I feel like that's what Big Mama wanted." And so he kind of knits this yarn that this granddaughter that he's been in her life since 3 years old is now supposed to be his wife. He comes up with this narrative that Big Mama, if anything happens to me, I want you to be with one of my girls because I know they're going to take care of you, and I want that to be Mary. He starts going around to all the church members asking if the Lord has told them that Mary's supposed to be his wife. And they're like, hell nah. And so now we're getting rumblings, right? People are like, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? We have a section of them, though, who's agreeing. Like, yeah, Mary's next. Mind you, Mary is a married woman. And she's disfellowship. Does that sound like a pious woman of Big Mama's stature would say, my disfellowshipped granddaughter, now I want her to marry my husband and take over the ministry and inherit all the businesses, inherit the money, inherit the church. So as expected, there's huge fallout. They get Dana, Mary's husband, who was raised in the church, also there. They say they just run him over. They publicly sandblast him, talk about him like a dog, you know, do all of the things, and eventually make it so that Mary and him can get a divorce. Mary at this point is convinced this is what her grandmother wants, allegedly, and they get married. But Tyra, what can we say too much? I mean, the age difference is still 20 years. Big Mama married him. He was 20 years her junior. Now Bishop is marrying his granddaughter, 20 years his junior. What did you think about this whole insert your quarter here? Like, now we just gonna make this work. I want you. I gotta have you. Does it give grooming to you? It gives grooming to me. You've been watching that little girl since she was 3?
Girl, where is that in the will? Where is the document that Big Mama signed that said, you know, I'm gonna leave Mary to you like she's state property? What? We just passing it along? I no. With Mary being what did she disown her, or what did she do? She did disfellowship. She couldn't come to the church. That to me gave, you know, you balling out outside being a city girl. Do what you want to do, because Big Mama do what she want to do, but it's in the dark. We still have a reputation to maintain. If you're gonna be out there like that, I can't have you at the forefront of the church or anything like that. I think if Mary was being Mary, but she was moving a bit more calculated, I don't think she would have got you know, disfellowshipped. But if I'm Big Mama and this is in the sense of tradition or whatever, if you want to call it that, it wasn't just Mary. Mary had an older sister who was just as equally devoted, active, straight and narrow. Not at all anybody's city girl, let her tell it. Always did what I was told. If we want to, you know, not shake the table, and if we disfellowshipped Mary just at the aspect, like, girl, you can't mess up the church's money. Why would we want to put her in this position? I would go for the older, you know, it's only right. I would do that. So I
Or
don't
the
see that making,
mom.
or the mom. I wanted some more on why the mom was just so absentee. Because she still was very, into church, into, the Pentecostal, we saw her later and what she was trying to do and kind of go toe to toe with Mary. Why? Why would we be that involved? It would be different if she went astray and she wanted nothing. Like, no, you were still involved in the church, but you weren't really involved with your mother or your own daughter. Something is broken there. But what makes the most sense, since you decided to keep this man around, because Big Daddy showed to do me right for all I know. I don't know what was going on and why Mama kept this man around, and we found out what he was doing with the sons. This was like, your daughters. Who's to say that it was limited to the sons? And there wasn't some grooming going on over here with what would be like your daughters. Like, what makes more sense is, we playing in Mama's face, biding our time, because that's what it gave. He saw an opportunity, and Mama was very receptive of it, like, "Ooh, young 20s, oh, okay, let's go." And in the meantime, in between time, I'm going to be, planting seeds. And who knows what with Mary? I don't think this doc at all considered that part and what could have happened to Mary for her to just so easily jump ship. It was just given, Mary was a city girl. She always been about a bag. So it was just so easily for her to jump into Mama's shoes. And she had all those businesses and the money and the congregation and the church. And she was, out there with the wretched for big fun. Yeah. What if she wasn't? What if she was groomed from who knows what to this? Because Mama could have said anything. As someone who's watched you grow up, from 2, 3 on, wife where? I don't give a damn what it says there or what Mama's wishes were. I wouldn't consent to that. But we did it, no problem. And the fact that when we get to sister, it was like, I don't, like, she never even considered me. It was always I was like, what's going on in the house? What was going on for this to be okay? I feel like she was put in a way, and we're not talking about that because we don't just act out or become suggestive or whatever for no known reason. That it's normal to rebel, but it's just something that's not being said. And I wish that somebody would have considered it or said it. They didn't say it at all. They just wanted us to know that Mary was too hot to trot. And she saw an opportunity and got with this man. And he was with it because Mama left this and said this in her will and her little last testament. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. What makes sense is you were probably grooming or doing some weird stuff from the age of 3. So when you said, come on, because Big Mama gone, she went.
Yeah. I think it's money. But I definitely think it's grooming. I think you paved the way for her to be so comfortable. And then not only that, but this isn't a 1-2 year, just quick marriage and we got, it didn't work out. This is 20 years later, a grown son later. Yeah, something that not right. Now they'll say that he manipulated her. He convinced her thoroughly that this was the desire of Mama and she just wanted to honor Mama's wishes. But you're right, that would give me the creeps. And especially during the doc, the other sister is calling him Gramps the whole time, and it's like, oh god, like, Gramps, like,
can we still call you Grandpa?
Lord, just sicko. Jay Buggin, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Mama may have had her daughter give her the kids. It's not like she was running around being hot because people were willing to follow her. Yeah, Mama weird. I don't think Big Mama made this plan at all necessarily. Now I don't know if she gave directive on who he should marry, but it's odd to lay with a man and then say, I want my, daughter or granddaughters, one of my girls, to be with him. That's just very sick. But seeing as how they were all like, maybe she did say it. Maybe it was something that we're not privy. Again, this is what happens when we don't get into the cult of it all. Because what were y'all taught? What were you trained? Was this something that happened in conversation? Was there precedent for a situation like this? Had this happened before in the past?
I took something else away from it because they do paint the picture like, okay, Mama passed on and he instantly tried to step into her shoes and the church wasn't having it. So it kind of felt like, oh, this isn't really going the way that I thought it was. It was giving, we not only wanted to be with Mama, but we idolized her. We may have been jealous in some ways because I want to, have that power. I want to have some autonomy as a man, blah, 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 whatever. she's gone, it's passed on to me. It's my time to shine. But if they're not taken to you like that, oh, let me get someone that they know. Let me get her in here and say that this is what mama wanted. It just feels very poignant in that way.
Yeah, and it may be. I mean, a united front is better than anything, and maybe he felt like Mary was the most charismatic of the crew, right?
She
Um,
is.
it gives any one of them would have done it. It gives any if
Oh
you
yeah.
chose any one of them, and we'll get into the sister later. But it definitely gave like, well, if he would have asked me, I would have done it. Like I would have
She
been his
showed
wife.
up in a red car. She was in a red car. Hmm.
Like, yeah, she got married. He got married a BMW, and the rest is in a Chanel bag, and the rest was history. But later, we see a conversation, an interview done by a YouTuber, where we have Rosalind Cazares, Mary's mama, and her husband. Because this was, baby, the most dramatic thing I've ever seen at a church. She got up in them people pulpit and said, I'm not going for it. This is not right. This is not it. And if you want to go with me, go with me. And if you want to stay here, stay here. And I can't do nothing for you if you stay. And she staged a big march out, honey. It looked like they was doing the choir march. If you've seen the processional with the 2x2 walking down the aisle, I was like, well, go on. But later they're doing this interview, and honestly, rest in peace to Rosalind. Rosalind passed in January of 2025. So Mary's mother is no longer living, and I think it's so sad because they don't talk. I think up until her death, even they were not on speaking terms. Rosalind had such a huge problem with everything that happened, and she and her husband feel as though Robert tricked my baby. Mary was 22, she was fresh, she was young, she was beautiful, and he knew that she had a flair, mama, and so he took that and ran with it. Now, in I believe 2022, Rosalind won a $1.5 million settlement from Robert and Mary because they allegedly forged documents. I'm not sure if those were will documents related to the will or properties, but it was found that they had forged some sort of documentation, and they had been in court battling for, I think, 10 years, and finally won a $1.5 million settlement against them. And again, this is after exhuming mama's body, making sure there wasn't foul play. She's literally fought this tooth and nail every step of the way. And again, rest in peace to Rosalind. But what did you think of their interview? What did you think of her point of view? What did you think of her march out, taking half the church with her?
Uh, I didn't like none of this. I just believe in mothers protecting their children. Like, because a part of this could be, oh my God, like, not y'all trying to pull this stunt. My mama wanted what? They would never do this. And what did you say to my baby? You tricked her to get her here. But where were you, the 20 odd something years this entire time? What were you doing? Like,
She was
storming
suing.
out. I mean, what you mean?
She was suing. That's what I'm
No, I
saying.
mean Mary, like coming up, like as a young lady, as a
Oh,
little girl,
growing
as a
up.
like where, yeah, like where were you? What were you doing? I mean, if you got your degree and you care so much, what were you doing? And storming out and immediately having that disconnect to like, well, it's either me or them. Y'all can come with me. It's giving, this isn't what, the church would have wanted. This isn't what my mother would have wanted, blah, blah, blah. In the good name, we're walking out of here in solidarity. But it's also giving like, I'm not dropping anything. I don't care if if you felt like she was tricked, I'm sticking around until she's untricked. I'm taking whatever with me, but I'm still, my first priority is always going to be Mary. I need to get in there and break whatever hold like you just left. So it just gives an air of jealousy, like with all of them. Like, oh, so mama left it to you. Mama said that you needed to. Well, I was here. I'm her own daughter. She didn't leave this to me. Everybody was already like prepped for mama's death and to take her spot. And it seems like it became more about that spot than protecting herself, protecting Mary, her other daughter. Like it didn't really feel like she cared about that. It's like, oh, he tricked my baby into taking what was supposed to be mine naturally. This was supposed to roll over to me. You didn't really care about your daughter in general and why she maybe even had the opportunity to get tricked by Robert in the first place. I don't know, RIP to this woman, but when you're that close to your children and you're absentee and you and your mother don't really speak, but in the same breath, you want to be a part of the church, in the church, and assume the role when she's gone? Why? I don't know. Something, if she want to go off and do her own thing, that's fine. But everybody just kind of shows up here mad like something was taken from them. And it's not relationships. It's not motherhood or my daughter. It's the position because I was supposed to be pastor. That's all they cared about. So I couldn't really just vibe with Miss Mama here.
I mean, that's the culture. Like, and people don't like to talk about it, but in a lot of black churches and a lot of apostolic Pentecostal churches, that's the culture. People vie for position, they vie for role, and that's the most important thing. They look up to these leaders, like in this situation, and look at them like they're gods. Like it's really sick and sad. I don't know. I know everybody's built different. We don't know. Again, that's not something they dove into. What was Mary's childhood? What happened with that relationship with the mom? Did she ever make a re-entry? Did they ever reconcile before the passing of Big Mama? What was that dynamic like? Like, we don't have really the background to fully flesh this out. But of course, we would all want a mother to be present and mother her child. All of the energy that you had this half of your life, like you said, why didn't you have that energy for your children the first half of theirs? And again, I think it boils down to a mindset and almost like a brainwashing. Like, if I can just get in that position, then everything in my life will be fine. Everything will be forgiven. Everything will be absolved, and we can kind of move on. And I feel like she felt like she was owed the position. I'm
Mm-hmm.
the daughter, I'm the one who should, in all, capacities, take this spot over. And I really feel like as you watch all of them, their mannerisms from the church services we saw, this is something that was practiced. It was something that was learned, like learned behavior. Even the way Mary preaches is something that's learned, right? A cadence, a way that
Mm-hmm.
you hold the mic, a way that you address the audience to make them feel whatever. And I think they were all trained and groomed in that way. And so they all wanted a piece of it, unfortunately. And it's really sad that it took that. So now we're going to get into the allegations of everything. Since we have a background, we know who Mary is, we know what happened with the ministry and the whatever. This is kind of the first introduction to the bull scheme that Todd set up, okay? Because in the show, he's brought on, I believe, by Lisa Barlow, who's one of the housewives who didn't really ever like Mary. They say that she's the one behind all of the stuff, right? And he basically was like, yeah, I'm the one who brought Mary on here. Mary's connection to the show was him. He literally said, I want the world to see who Mary is really. Okay. Cameron was very intelligent. They say he worked for Goldman Sachs in the world of finance, educated black man, handsome, all of the things. And he was looking for a church home. He wanted spiritual fulfillment. He'd been saving his tithes for the last 3 years, waiting for a church home. He finds Faith Temple, honey, and finds Mary and is just enamored. So much so, he mortgages his house, picks a second mortgage out on his house for $300,000 to give to Mary. And not only is he giving her $300,000, he's giving her the ding-a-ling too, Tyra, because they said that he would sleep with her on Saturday night and she would have him up in the pill pit on Sunday morning. They were going to game. Now, they had a lot of pictures of them booed up. I'm going to just set it right there. Like, I was like, oh, is this what a pastor and her congregant do? Like, I'm embarrassed. And so Cameron is like, there's a lot. I can't say it now. I can't say it, whatever. And so, of course, we're waiting on this reveal. We come to find out that Cameron uh, ultimately passed from a complication of brain surgery. He had a tumor. And so he's no longer with us either. And Mary's response to that, well, God took him. He lied on me. Okay. That was her take on the whole situation. But before he died, he had left voicemails and had recorded conversations with other members of the church. And he said, yeah, I feel like a fool. Whenever time I screwed her, I felt like I was sleeping with God. Like, I really thought Mary was God. He said he thought the sun set between her thighs, honey. She's got diamonds in them darn heels. Apparently, he was hooked on it. But of course, before he goes out, he lets them know, I was sleeping with her. I did this. I feel like such a fool. I was so used. But this is really the first kind of hot button thing that we hear about. Tyra, what did you think when you saw Cameron and heard all of the mess surrounding the affair? Allegedly.
She did that. She 156 say, oh yeah, he did. Your daddy did that. She did that. Once again, oh, Big Mama, this like mother, like daughter, this learned behavior. We wait, and our little 20 some odd years, little degrees of separation, and it gave Big Mama my little something, my little yeah on the side. That's what it gave. Every photo that we did see, it did give intimate. This housewife over here and how devoted she was to unmasking Mary and all her nefarious deeds, bringing this man on the show and whatever else. Um, I didn't like that there didn't seem to be a layer of protection for current victims and who could be potential victims of Pastor Robert and Pastor Mary. Like, where was the consideration? It was just kind of, well, let's just unmask it. And I thought I was sleeping with God, and it was diamond between those thighs, and I mortgaged this house and 300. Like, okay, yeah, all right, it was something because you did what, sir? You gave all your money and you mortgaged your house and got what? This very educated bald brother. What's wrong with you, sir? But it never felt like I want to say these things or come to the show and shed light because I don't want Mary or Robert or whomever to be able to move in this way again. Maybe I didn't, get protection the way that I should, but I want to help someone else. It was just, no, let me tell you about everything. I was like, what? What is going on here? Even in the way that we have him, but before he passed, and you have, what is it, Mary's cousin or family or whomever, we have a recorded conversation. And I'm supposed to be speaking to you, coming to you as a friend and to share what went on, but you're recording me. There's always like an air of get back or evidence, or I need this on the back end so I can have proof of. Like, there's just something disingenuous about it. I just didn't feel like anybody was really thinking about, okay, well, if you're moving this way with me, what about, your everyday average church member or all the other things that are going on behind the scenes or just the dynamics of your marriage to where I could even be over here stroking you up? I don't know. We couldn't get too much because, like you said, he passed on. But yeah, she did that. Nothing about that felt like a lie. Nothing about it felt like a lie. I feel like because you do have a much older husband, and I think someone said in the chat for a long time, Mary gives the ick out of, or she had the ick for Robert, like how, I don't know their dynamics on the show, or if it gives older loving, we bumping uglies in the night type of romantic energy, or if it gives like, oh, unfortunately, father daughter type of, like, I don't know what that looks like. So you could see her wanting to sort out someone who's around her same age, maybe younger, more appealing, attractive, or whatever. But it kind of gave cycles because it felt like this was her Robert.
For sure. For sure. Leslie, Book Skirts and Purse said, second mortgage and dingling. I'm doing life all wrong. Listen,
All wrong.
all wrong. Because what in the world? And so that was just, again, the first of the allegations, and we're starting. Next, we have the Enoch family. And all the Enochs was in there. Apparently, they were raised in the church. Michael Enoch, the one we see down there, dated Mary when they were younger. So they know all of the ins and outs. I believe this is Rosalind. She worked intimately with them. She worked in their house for free. She worked at the church. They gave all that they had to Mary, and she called them poor. But not only did she do that, is that Michael had a daughter, Michael, and Michael unfortunately passed in a car accident, and Mary makes light of it during one of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City episodes, and is like, kids, wear your seatbelts. Very crass, very harsh, very just not uncaring. For me, this family was very bitter, and they were very, I think they were just so emotionally hurt because of all that they had invested and poured into the ministry and to Mary, and to find out that it was all a scam, like it was all a scheme. Mary just used us for what she did. It was really kind of tough to watch. Now, Michael, he had left the church a while ago. Rosalind was still there, and her other brother who played the organ. They were both still there. Said they'd written Mary $1,000 checks. Again, she's worked for her for free. And now they're just mad about it and want to talk about it. And of course, after they see her response to Michael's passing on the show, it's like, okay, now what do we do here? You know, I'm so hurt. Mary made a mockery of everything. And I said, my last straw was, if you bring the Bravo cameras into the church, if you bring them over here, I'm leaving, and I haven't been back. Michael says he won't even say that lady name, but she's not a good person. She's not whatever. And again, I totally believe abuses happen. The hard thing with cults is that people choose to be there.
Yeah.
There's not at this point a law that prohibits people from getting played or getting used. Like, if somebody convinces you to give them all your money, they just convinced you. And if they mistreat you and talk to you crazy while you're doing it, it's just, cults are so hard. That's why you see a lot of cult leaders never get prosecuted or can't, unless there's actual abuses that can be proven. This is just so hard, but I feel the hurt in this family. It's just like, I do wonder how much they paid y'all to come on here and do this. Tyra?
I tried really hard to feel sorry for me. I really did. I really did. I don't know, just watching Mary in this short amount of time. So you guys sat and allowed Mary to convince you that she was God? Because that's the only reason to follow. And it's not even like this is some side entity that just came, like a mama. Like, no, she's been here this entire time. This isn't mama. This is a little girl that she grew up with, said that she was everything but a child of God under the sun. Like, oh, she was nasty. She was terrible. She was an awful girl. She was awful coming up. Miserable ass Mary. We couldn't stand her. But yet and still, we got into a position to follow, give our last dime, because we didn't have that else to give. What? You gave how much of your money, how much of your time in your life before you left? Yellow hat down here. I felt for him with the daughter, because don't use my baby in that way. And having, like, oh, don't play in traffic. Like, are you serious? Are you mad? But it was also like, if you knew all of these things about Mary, oh, she was an awful person. She was awful since we were small. Then we was coming up, she turned into a city girl, and then she pulled up in a red. If we know all of this, why are we still here following? Outside of like the godlike and the diamonds and them their heels, it gave Michael was giving scorned ex. Like, it was supposed to be me in that red Ferrari with her. I was supposed to be what? It just gave scorned. This poor young lady here, working down at the big house for free for a decade, ma'am. I was trying to feel for everyone here, and I mustered some up, but unlike a lot of those in-depth backwoods Utah cults, it's different because they've been so indoctrinated as well, but it's, on a compound, they're isolated. Oh, I can't even, wipe my own ass in private, let alone think about leaving here. There's always this weight of escaping. And the fact that they could all be under this thumb, just in the capacity of a church, like there was no threat on your life. It was just, a threat against me is a threat against God. I don't want to go to hell. I don't want to be disfellowshipped. I don't want to be cast out from the church and all I've known all my life. So I'm going to just continue to follow and give until I can't anymore. This was wild. What? And it's just like, you can only fault the community that's been allowed to fester so much with Mary, because she didn't technically put a gun to anybody's head and make them stay, make them give, make them endure all of that trauma and abuse pretty much for years. I thought, it didn't take them as long to leave, but as, we kept going in the years and they're going, it's just like, then I was like, oh, that's too much. She was about to break. You waited for the Bravo cam to pull up to say, okay, yeah, I'm done. This is too much. So you were going to continue to follow and give regardless. Nothing about Mary gives me God. Not even God, not even crystal, nothing about her gives anointed. It's very performative and hollow. And you let this lady sit in your face and say that you were poor, but you
Yeah.
still sat and mustered up out of your drum away income and gave her $1,000 because I got to give to the Lord. I don't know. The cross of religion and cult is just very, very interesting because if you're going in a biblical sense, nobody's supposed to equate to God. That's supposed to be like blasphemy, but we're following her unwillingly because you think she is. I don't know. This is some magic work, but like that man said, if she got that man to give her 300 K and some D, I don't know. We like books and perks. We living life wrong. We living life wrong.
I have an immense amount of empathy and for compassion for anybody who has been like the like the victim of religious abuses, because I understand it. Like I understand it
Yeah.
so deeply that being born into a situation and thinking that your salvation is contingent on the word of the prophet or whoever's there. It's like something so ingrained. Like if I move this way, if I move that way, it's hell. And I don't want to spend my life in hell because I've been trained and taught that hell is
Yeah.
this and this is this. And so like I get it. And you would think it's not rational, right? It's
Yeah.
part of religious psychosis. Like there's a whole DSM whatever about this. And I just feel for them because the way that the practitioners and the leaders perpetuated it's such a fear mongering based
Yeah.
uh, situation, right? And so no, you don't. You stay in it for a
I've
long time, even not
tried.
being. And people, it's crazy because a lot of people don't view it as a cult, but this happens
No.
in so many regular
Oh yeah,
Sunday
this
morning
was a cult.
churches.
This was a
Yeah,
cult. Those people, whoever those members were, when they were coming, I'm here, Mary. I gotta follow you, Mary. I was like, oh my goodness, what kind of devotion is this? And for them to be here, their parents were here. You guys have
yeah.
been here all your lives. It's
Oh,
terrible.
you're born into it, born and bred and raised in it. And you'll hear people like, especially apostolic Pentecostal people, like it's just such a, it's such a, anyway, you're viewing their salvation. A lot of people haven't worked it out for themselves. Everything about their faith is tied to a person, is connected to a person in a church that stands up and tells them what to do. They haven't sought it out for themselves. And I think
Mm.
that's what makes it hollow. And I think that's what makes it hard for them to break away. Because if I've never built this relationship for myself, how do I do it? Right? Like I've been dependent on this crutch my entire life. It's so sad. And the thing about it is systemic because then I have kids and I've raised them in this, and then they have kids, and it just perpetuates beyond until you ultimately get free. And I think, again, of course, it's easy to watch them and judge and all that,
Yeah.
because it doesn't make logical sense, but I
It's
get
not.
them and my prayers are with them. And then also, if you tie it to the way Mary was, all these people was dropping dead, and Mary was saying it was because
Girl,
it
I'm
was because
sending
they
Jesus
lied
after
on
you.
me. It was, you know what I mean? I
Sending
think
Jesus after all y'all. Y'all didn't give
when
me
you
enough money on my birthday. All y'all going to hell. I'm sending Jesus after everybody.
exactly, and when you're in a delusion, that starts to make sense cognitively. You're like, ah, damn, that did happen. Mary, yeah, let me go back over here with Mary because they dropped it like
I tried, Ashley. I would never go for like never. You couldn't catch me with this. But once again, I wasn't brought up here all my life, so it's not for me to understand.
I know, I know. So now let's get over here. Kim Cosby and the girls, okay? Because Kim, she been there a long time as well. And of course, her allegation is, I've known Mary. We were close for 10 years. I'm married to Mary's cousin, brother, whoever that young man was that they put yeeted across the church when they laid hands on him. But basically, she went on a trip with Mary and the bishop. And I guess the bishop, she stayed standing out there with the bishop too long. And Mary said, "You want my husband? You want these worms? You want this old
Oh,
man?
oh,
You're
please.
gonna be out here with him." And she's like, "No, I mean, I love him as my bishop, but I'm not in love with him." And so then that becomes his thing, his stem every day. He's calling her, texting her 100 times a day, talking about yeah, you're in love with me. I need you to come to the big house, Kim. I need you to come on to the big house, leave your husband, leave your kids at home. We need to have a talk because I don't think you're getting it. And so he'd call all these private meetings, really haranguing and harassing her until she started to believe it. She said, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Like, yeah. And so then not only is he haranguing her, telling her that she's in love with him, but then it becomes, yeah, and your husband's not doing what he needs to do. Yeah, keep him at the house. Yeah, bring him into the church house so I can, that's the moment God left you. And so they kick the husband out. And she's still there, still that, you want me. And apparently this was not the only woman in the church that he was doing this to. I read some articles, and allegedly Robert was haranguing a lot of the young women in the church, all around, you want me, you need me, calling them, texting them, like, call me when you can talk freely. So finally, I guess there's one final call, and he says, you're in love with me, aren't you? And she says, no. What? And she said that was her final straw, and she finally leaves. But I want to know how far this goes, Robert. How many of these ladies are you messing with? Questions that need answers. What do you think about Kim's story, Tyra?
Can you get Jay Buggins' super chat before I forget about it? Because she sent one and I don't want to miss it.
Where did it go? Okay. When talking about how bad she was as a kid, I was thinking they just mad she wasn't following the cult rules. Then rules against them. Listen.
Oh.
Bugging.
That's why I'm saying I don't like that they just perpetuated it as it was just, oh, Mary made this into a cult. No, once a cult, always a cult. It was one when Mama was there and baby mama's mamas and everybody else. This was, I just needed more. First of all, you sat there as her husband, the young man and the boys, you abused them as children, instilled this fear, and then we're still here in the presence because Big Mama didn't get rid of him. Mama said he could stay. And if all of this gives cult, if this doesn't give cult, I don't know what does. Because when you have the leader, they always feel like, okay, what's yours is mine, and I should have access to everything. Not just your money, but your wives. Mm-hmm. I want to know if this was frequent around the church and we just kept doing it. If he's acting in this way and has the boldness to do so, who gave in? Who felt like they were obligated to go up to Robert's quarters and service him or whatever? Like, this just runs so deep and we just didn't go far enough. This lady looked stressed out. This lady just looked like, and it didn't, with Kim, it didn't just give, I'm stressed out because of the aspect of him even asking or putting me in the situation to think that I will be obligated to service or sleep with or give my body, or my husband isn't. It felt like she went up the stairs. It felt like she went up the stairs. And nobody's here to save me. My husband's, he's been indoctrinated long ago as a young boy. He's not protecting me. Our children are here. I'm like, you guys weren't on some, just leave. This is it. But I'm like, okay, I gotta think about people and what we've been through our entire lives. But the fact that this is an outsider, you brought your wife in here, and she still felt like she had an obligation, even if we didn't go up the stairs, I think she did, to entertain him. And there were going to be repercussions if she did, or if she said something. And I didn't feel the whole notation of I felt comfortable to move or some type of reprieve that it wasn't just me. Those are victims. That's what victims say. And not to say that the suggestion of it all wouldn't make her, any less of a victim, because we shouldn't be doing that. But it just gave that she went up the stairs with that man. And I hated that for Kim. I hated that. And I could just feel her, even like a Mary, this is your duty. This is what you have to do. Like, just go. And I feel like it wasn't just her. I wanted to talk to some more folks, and I wanted to know how deep this went. But I don't feel like anybody was protected, especially not Kim. If Mary wasn't protected, Kim sure wasn't protected.
Sure what? I pray he in touch of Jesus. Easing on down the road, we have Miss Pat and white slavery. This was probably the
Ashley, please.
It was white slavery. That's what it was. This was probably the saddest thing. Miss Pat was 81 years old, still serving at the behest of the Cosby family, honey. She didn't raise their kids. She was taking the wash out, taking the laundry. She was doing the dishes. She was bringing water from the other side of the house to the left, east wing, west wing. Miss Pat, and they said they told her, "You'll never get away from us. If you want to go to heaven, you're gonna serve us. You're our slave," is what they said to her. Now, Miss Pat had two sisters. Susie had a sister Susie and a brother Don. Pat said she wanted to go to sleep and not wake up the next day because that's how badly they talked to her and treated her in that house. They had that white lady in a turban, y'all. In a turban. Fixing their victuals and sweeping up their floors. I felt like this was the saddest thing ever. And so Miss Pat actually doesn't wake up one morning. And they want to bury her, but because Susie, the sister, had got kicked out the church, Susie couldn't come to the funeral. Susie couldn't go to Pat's funeral or Don's funeral. Don was a bus driver and said he gave all his money to the church. But Susie wasn't going for it. They actually put Susie out of the church because she told Don, "Stop giving them people all your money." This was a family affair. So when Miss Pat goes, Susie says, "I wanted to go, but they wouldn't let me. I would have crashed the funeral. All about my sister, all about my family. You're not going to prevent me from saying goodbye." This was sad and wretched. Y'all worked this lady to the bone, to her death, didn't pay her, and then didn't even let her family come and see her off. Like, I thought this was the most heinous and treacherous thing. She older than your old husband and all the worms he carries. She's older than that, and y'all are working her like this in your house. I thought this was so sad, Tyra. Talk to me about Miss Pat and the white slavery of it all.
I said, no, not white Cicely Tyson in the hell. Y'all can't do that. I'm not going around back. Like, once again, getting back to the cult-like behavior. First of all, I was gonna come up in there because who not coming to the funeral, sis? I'm coming to my sister's funeral. It's bad enough that I couldn't tear them away, but I'm coming to the funeral. I needed some more. Like, what were the repercussions if we weren't following the good word of Mary and Robert? What was gonna happen if I showed up? Outside of me being disfellowshipped and I can't come down to the church or something, I'm barred from maybe the community that I've known since childhood. Okay. What was going to happen if you rolled up? I want to know. Because the fear that was instilled is very mafia-like. Like, what was, like, somebody's going to come through in the heat of the night and take you out. And it wasn't going to be Jesus. How Mary was sicking Jesus on people. I was like, what was going to happen? This was so sad. Like, I said, oh, Lord, they done got the whites. This was so sad. But it says a lot that not even our own family, our sister, couldn't even wake us up to come out of this. You don't have to stay here. You can come home. Like, let's stop giving them your bus driver, your pension and your fund and your money, brother. Like, and they were still there. I wish, this lady could have been saved. To be so miserable to say that, what, I want to go to sleep and not wake up. It says a lot about her treatment. And we get a little bit of it. I haven't watched the Housewives, but these people were there on Bravo. Like, in what capacity? Like, how were they being treated on camera? Or, like, what?
There was one instance where Robert called her on the phone to bring, can you bring it wherever you are? But I don't think we actually saw Miss Pat on the show. We saw that other one, Sharonda, or somebody like that, which is a younger Black lady. But I don't think we actually got to see Miss Pat. And y'all correct me if I'm wrong, in those first seasons of Real Housewives of Salt Lake. But I know they called her on the phone, like, can you?
But even with that, if it was never Miss Pat, you saw people working in the big house. To what capacity? So bring me my slippers. Tell them, bring me to what? Because this doesn't look like servant staff or any professional, like, and they were here, not earning a dime, not like just working to the bone, serving. This is a cult. This is a cult. Yes, Vodka, it was giving Constantine. She said, I'm gonna go around back, but I'm gonna see my mama first. I'm coming in here. I'm going to get Constantine. I'm going to get her. And we tried to get Constantine out of here, and it was just bad. Skeeter tried to go get Constantine, and we couldn't make it on time because she was gone. It was very much that we couldn't get her out of there. This is the most cult like thing out of all of it, because to be there at this age and feel like you have no choice but to be here until you die. Crazy work.
It's sad. It was heartbreaking. And especially a lot of times when you get older and again you've believed something for so long, it's really hard to come outside of that. And Miss Pat really believed her salvation was tied to them. That's so sad. And then to misuse somebody. But babe, payday someday. I'll say that. You reap what you sow, definitely. Now let's get over here. Tyra, the sister, jealous or not?
Very much so. Unfortunately, hard wig, soft life. She had her hard wig and she wanted a soft life. Um, I I wanted to feel for the sister, and I did in some capacity. She just it gave off an air like she was never chosen, like it was always Mary. Mary was always the favorite, but I was there being the good one, doing as I was told, being even more devoted, following. But you chose Mary, that harlot. You chose her. Like that's just what it gave. I felt for the sister because it has to be, even, in the cultish whatever, it has to make you feel a way to not be chosen. Because we're not chosen by mama, our real mom, at all. Period. And then we get over here with mama and we're not chosen. We get over here with Robert and we're not chosen. And then we have to kind of branch off and like, oh, I'm not standing for this. I'm storming out too. Kind of chosen. I don't know. But you're not chosen, and then you're here in the capacity of like she was kind of in service as well. She just never got that time to shine when she was equally as devoted and immersed in the word, and probably could have got up there and led. And it's like, no, sit down. You don't do that. Get over there and sit down. Go back to where you're told. Go in the back. And she's just breaking down every single decade that she's amongst this. It's like, you know what? I'm finally broken down to the point that I need to get away from this church and get away from Mary. It was jealousy, but it was sad that she even thought that she needed to be, and she didn't realize until later, because she says she realizes it now how unhealthy the environment was. I don't know if we're still giving at this moment. Should have been me. Ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis. It should have been me. It should have been me, and it wasn't. I feel sad for Sister.
Yeah, sister was different. What first made me realize, like, oh, okay, something's not going all the way up here, was when she talked about a time Mary took her car for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, Mary could never be trusted. She was just one of them. I remember she took my car for 2, and I had to go in the streets and looking for her. I was like, oh, you're holding on to a lot of stuff. You've always hated Mary. And I think so, like as you hear it, you feel like, Mary was loud, she was fun, she was the life of the party, she was that girl. And I really feel like she hated it. I think her story could have been impactful if it wasn't just resonating with bitterness and jealousy. Like it just was off of her. Like, and the fact that even all through the bitterness and all through the jealousy, sister still believed that Mary was her connection to God. She said she didn't have a revelation until she was ready to end her life.
Yeah.
The enemy was playing in her mind, and she was like, yeah, I'm just about to leave. All my life was for nothing. I put everything in this and I got nothing in return. And then she said she heard the Lord say, look up, your redemption draweth nigh. That was a cult. And she says, when she got her revelation and moved on with her life. But again, baby, you're not a spring chicken either. And these are all fairly recent, like after the Housewives have aired within the
Yeah.
last 5 years or so. And you've been in it your whole life. And I agree with you. I think it's a case of, I was never been, choose me, love me. I'm good. She says when Gramps called her on the phone, can I still call you Gramps?
I still call you grandpa?
But you could kind of tell she was like forlorn about it. Like you didn't, you didn't consider me? Like,
Mhm.
that's what Mama said. Mama said marry, like, and I
Uh-huh.
hate that for
I'm the
her. I hope
oldest.
she's free, and I hope she's moving. Y'all, word on the street is everybody went to Restoration Temple, I think is the name of the church. From all ex-members of Faith Temple. It's another place where they can recover and home. If you're in Salt Lake and you got a building, they need you. They say they need a permanent location. As far as Mary's church, listen, I just put it out there. As far as Mary's church, they said it was under renovations and that services would start back in 2025. Word on the street is there's still a big
That
fence
is
and it's like
silly.
nowhere, nothing's been done. But they say in this doc, people are still following and serving Mary and the bishop. I don't know, Tyra, but what I do want to know is after this is all said and done, does this give consequences? Because in all of my comment sections on all the social medias, the people are 10 toes down about Mary. They say, I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn she took them people money. I don't give a damn she had Miss Pat in white slavery and oppression and chains. I don't give a single damn about it. I stand with
Actually,
Mary.
white slavery is gonna take me out every time.
Mary's that girl. If they want to give her the houses in Lynn, that's what they decided to do. That wasn't her fault. Let her wear her Chanel and her, Hermes and all of those things and be beautiful. Tyra, does this result in anything substantial for her life? Does it shift her life any? What do you think?
No. You had those people in the dock, those people that they didn't license to see if you could even use their clips or whatever. It's like, oh, that was awful. She did what? Oh, that makes no sense. But I still love Mary. She can do no wrong. I'm still gonna follow her. She can do whatever she wants to do. Like that's still present now. I don't think she's gonna receive any, repercussions from this. There are no consequences. Especially if Mary is good for ratings from my understanding. She's the draw or one of the draws for the Salt Lake installment. Yeah, it's like if Andy don't care, why should we? Nobody cares. She's still being platformed. It's still like an air of laughter to it and unseriousness. Like, oh, she married her grandpa. Oh my God, that's so whack. And then they go back and do all of these studies on mama and the lineage and go, year and year and all of like everything just kind of devolving to where the gate is around the church. But she's still married. Oh, she's a jokester. Mary's great. Like there's just something about her, and I guess you can get with that if you watch the show. I've never watched the show. I don't know what she gives over there, but I'm sure she gives the same draw though in a different font that she gives to get those cult like members to hold on to her every word. There's something charismatic and just illuminating that makes people want to invest and watch her. Nothing's going to happen. I mean, she ain't gonna lose no sleep. She's not going to lose a bag. She's not going to. I don't think they presented anything here that people didn't already know or was sort of aware of if they watched the show, because the man was on the show. Everybody knew about mama. It's just you just have what seems to be a lot of he say she say and jealousy and things that are just really surface level and circumstantial. It shouldn't be room for us to say, oh, they're just jealous, they're just mad, and we're completely unbiased. I'm unbiased. I don't know Mary, I don't know these people, but I could look at this and it's giving, oh, like, oh, you have plausible reason to be mad, but there should be an air of jealousy, or what it should be justice. I want justice for myself and for other people. I don't think they're going to get it here, unfortunately.
Yeah. Again, I feel like wrong was done. What is it to the extent of abuses and mismanagement of finances? I think that's the part about a shallow documentary. If
Yeah.
you were setting out to ruin her, this wasn't doing it. You have to come with facts. Like in 2026, you have to come with the facts and you have to prove ill intent, wrongdoing, all of those things. Then her calling them people poor and them showing up the next day again to serve her, that's
It
what it
doesn't
was.
help. Now, it
And
doesn't help when we call those people poor and we get down there with Andy or whomever is doing the host. Yeah, Mary, we have clips here of you calling your congregation poor because they didn't give on your birth. Yeah, I said that.
yeah, I said it. And the thing is, Andy loves her down. Like I said, her last season was such a redemptive like season. I really feel like that conversation she has with her son, it was a beautiful moment. And like I said, Mary's hilarious on the show. But I think if y'all were trying to ruin her, you have to come correct. Like there was not anything that was definitive that was saying that the church literally funded her life. You had to prove that. You had to approve all of these multiple abuses. I'm sorry, but talking to them people crazy and them coming back over and over again isn't, now, and I question it. I think it's a cult. I look at her sideways. I think it's poor to shepherd God's people that way. And I think, like I said, I think you reap what you sow, but damn it, of all of the corrupt people and all of the franchise of Real Housewives, this is the one you chose to do a 3-part docu-series on. And then I don't like y'all didn't credit the creators. I don't like that. You're a huge network. I think they needed to do the due diligence. I know who produced it and directed it and edited it, but I think as a platform, as a network, you have to do the due diligence to make sure that compliance was made with the content and footage that you pulled for that. I do think it takes away from the credibility of it. And like I said, it was shallow and one-sided at best. But Tyra, any other thoughts on the cult of the Real Housewife, Mary Cosby, any of them?
This just gave, light to, see this why I don't go to church now. This is, those people who are maybe being in church. See, this is why I left the church. This is how they be moving, how they're, behaving. But a lack of consequences says a whole lot. I don't know. I have no plans to follow Mary's in her check. Yeah, but this isn't anything that was riveting, especially after and feel how you want to about it, after we watched such an intensive Diddy doc over there with the reckoning. To come here, it's like there was no reckoning here. There was a lot of room for error when if we want to take somebody down and have everything that she's built up disembarred because Mary, you aren't who we thought you are, we gonna make sure we check all the boxes. This just felt like something to throw out and capitalize on. Y'all know we always thought Mary was in a cult, right? Y'all, I heard that you heard that Mary, yeah, it definitely gives cult, but we still need receipts.
We need the receipts, y'all. That's what's important at the end of the day. Because we're going to use our good sense, and you have to come with facts. Tyra, anything else you want to let the people know about that's coming on, that's on the docket that we have planned before we get out of here for the night?
Yeah, some stuff on the docket. Be sure to pull up on Friday. We're gonna get into some fine men. Be sure to watch and be caught up on shows like The Pit, Industry. We'll be talking about those amongst other things. It's gonna be a full week next week, so be out there for that. And also Saturday, myself, Nikki, and some friends, I believe, we're gonna be talking about some 2025 horror and anticipating some horror that's coming out in 2026. So yeah, be on the lookout for that, please.
I'll be there too, guys. So just know it, Ashley and horror, if you want to have a good laugh. Because I know. But you guys, thank you so much for coming through. Thank you so much for supporting the live tonight. We appreciate you. And just make sure you have your notifications on because we might pop up with something else. You never know. Be there or be square and be caught up. Everything's coming back on TV and a lot of new stuff. We appreciate y'all being here. Have the most amazing night, and we will see y'all in the next video.